And our inner cities are like the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. We've forgotten about our inner cities, no longer. And the African-American community was great to us.
So that was then President-elect Trump. Roughly 1 year later, under his tenure, the black unemployment rate has fallen to a record low of 6.8%. It caps off a week of stunning action for the Dow Jones Industrials, hitting another record. It's just unbelievable, right? Charles Payne's with me in just a second. This is the best start to a year since 2006, to put a finer point on what I said going into the break. Charles Payne, host of Making Money on the Fox Business Network, joins me now. Charles, very strong numbers we've seen over the course of the beginning of this year. Can it be sustained? It's actually going back to the beginning of last year, and absolutely it can't be sustained. In fact, the momentum is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And, of course, we had the jobs report. Wall Street was looking for a little bit more, but the underlying data there, including unemployment. By the way, unemployment for all sectors going really well, but black unemployment at the lowest level ever, this goes back to 72 when they started keeping this data, is more pronounced than any other racial group. The participation rate is going up. They're coming back to the labor force. It is absolutely a marvel what we're seeing in this country. Do you think that, let's look at the comparison of the black vote for Mitt Romney, 6%. For Donald Trump, it ticked up slightly to 8%. It's typically been a voter group that aligns more with Democrats. Is there any chance that that changes based on any of this? I think there is a chance that it changes, and I think it's going to continue. It have to be a continuation of this sort of thing that we're saying. Keep in mind, though, the same tide lifts all ships. So if President Trump does continue with this economic revival that we're seeing, particularly in areas that have been hard hit, I call them dirty fingernail jobs, hard manufacturing through the roof. Manufacturing jobs have come back like crazy. These are the sort of areas where people will fill it in their wallet, all people, but particularly blacks, Hispanics, and folks like that. And then I think it's some of the other things, obviously housing, how they handle welfare reform, because remember, the mainstream media is going to portray him as being cold and mean. That's the ticket right there, because, President Obama said these jobs are never coming back, right? Right. He was supposed to be, obviously, he was a transformational president in many ways as an African-American president. But there are people who believe that group has been sort of catered to and not. You say the tide lifts all boats, but they're talked to in a different category sometimes by candidates. And that perhaps needs to change. I think it needs to change. I think America, in the DNA of most Americans, and it's part of all of us, that the idea that we can make it, the idea that we can be anything. When young kids listen to music, they listen to music about being bosses, about owning private jets. So the American DNA across the color spectrum is about success. And I think that's one of the intangibles that's coming back to the equation. It's hard to measure it, but you can see it. You see it with the manufacturing data, with the optimism data. Home builder sentiment through the roof. One of the reasons why? Traffic, just buyer foot traffic has spiked to levels not seen in almost 2 decades. So, Martha, it's there for all Americans. And again, I think if President Trump articulates a message to black Americans that's not unlike the message to anybody else, hard work, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. If I create the right economic backdrop, you can start a business. You can lift your own, you can participate in this. So, he's got to worry about that. I would say law enforcement, that was some rhetoric, particularly things early in the campaign. Those are areas that can hurt the message to the community. But I really believe on the economic side of it, all people are feeling it. Again, I don't know what kind of surveys folks are taking out there when they come back and say 34% approval rating, because more and more Americans are feeling and seeing in their own personal lives an improvement. Charles, good to see you. You too. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.